All right. How's everybody doing today? I am Paul. This is my wife, Tahira,
Hey.
and we're coming live to you from our YouTube channel. This is something new for 2026,
Yes.
and we are glad to be here. We are Ever After Marriage. Also,
Ever After
through
Talk.
through Hope Bias Coaching, our coaching company, we have a group on Facebook called Ever After Talk Loves Dialogue. And there we talk about all things healthy marriage. We talk about marriage killers and marriage builders, and we are migrating to this platform, and we'll be doing this. The videos aren't going to be too long, maybe 10 or 15 minutes max. And eventually, we will have courses and other things for you all to consider on your journey. Now, we're not just doing this for married couples, we work with individuals as well.
Absolutely.
But we're coming to you today with a topic that's really important because a lot of times we allow our emotions to get in the way, particularly when we deal with conflict. And that creates a lose-lose situation. And so we just wanted to spend some time talking about the importance of wrestling with our emotions so we can take back control of our minds and how we respond to things. And so that's the backdrop. I'm going to turn it over to my lovely wife. She's going to give you all a little bit of her thoughts on this, and then we'll see where this goes.
All right. So, wow. So, what I wanted to share, we were just experiencing a series of communications from couples who were going through a lot of stress. And I recognized in that some of the people who are experiencing stress also have childhood trauma. And that's not always a connection that I make, but because I myself have childhood trauma, and wasn't even aware of how much it was affecting me until probably, I think I started realizing it about 3 years ago. I was diagnosed with PTSD. And when I started having treatment for that, all of a sudden, I just became really clear about all the places where trauma just kind of impacted me, all memories impacted me, triggers impacted me, struggle impacted me, and I had no idea. I was just doing what I did. And the remarkable part is now 3 years later, after having had a lot of support, after having done a lot of research, after figuring a lot of tools to manage it, a lot of it is reduced. I have healed tremendously from it, which I did not think was possible. So that's a miracle in and of itself. Thank you, Jesus, for that. But what I've learned is that if we come into our relationships, or even just as individuals coming into our own lives, trauma can skew how we see things. And so it's almost like wearing a pair of blue glasses. Everything looks blue. And I'll give you an example of something that happened today, and this is kind of where our conversation got started. So today we were going to do some legacy planning, and this is something that I have been avoiding for
Ever.
a long time. And the reason I would avoid it is because I would get triggered inside, and I would start thinking of all the people who passed away, all the people that I witnessed pass away. Like it just took me places. And so I just couldn't get out of that mental loop of replaying all that stuff. So I really wasn't able to be present to have a productive conversation about it. After a lot of different processes and a lot of support, thank you, baby. I am at a place now where I can very intentionally manage things. And so what I noticed is I knew we were going to have the conversation. I knew we were going to have legacy planning. And I had to very intentionally support myself by saying, okay, we're just having a conversation. That's all this is just a conversation. And I was actually able to manage that. That might not sound like a big deal to many, but I know for myself, it was a whole new revolution to not go into grief and mourning by having a conversation about legacy planning. And I think the thing I really want to point out, the only reason I would share something like this is because for anyone who's experienced trauma, when you're on the other side of it, the front side of it, when it's big and scary, you can't imagine being at peace. You cannot imagine navigating it. You just because the things that you went through don't go away. So you can't imagine relating to it in a different way. But I can say on the other side of it, 3 years in, that I can now, I can go into things understanding that some stuff's going to come up for me, and that the stuff that comes up can mess up the conversation, or I can manage it. And so I'm making choices now because I see it. Before, like I'm telling you, I didn't even know what was going on before. All I knew is I just couldn't have this legacy planning conversation. And so I just want to, if there's anybody out there who either is trying to navigate trauma or is married to someone who's navigating trauma, I just want you to be aware that there are tools and tips and ways of healing from it. It does not have to railroad you. So I'm sure there's probably more I could share, and if anyone has questions, I probably would like to go in that direction because I want to offer support that's meaningful. But we were having the conversation about relationships, and I think in marriage, it's really important not only to love your spouse, support your spouse, care about your spouse, but also care about yourself, because the two of you are a team, and making sure that the team gets the maintenance that it needs, gets the love that it needs, the support that it needs, just the resources and tools that it needs. And so if that's ever an issue for anybody out there and you want more information, please feel free to reach out, because it's a real thing, y'all.
Absolutely. And just to go into this a little bit deeper, some of the things that we need to understand when it comes to emotional processing, this stuff is really important. We're only going to scratch the surface on this, but we're sharing this because maybe it'll resonate with you and prompt you to look into getting some help, particularly when it comes to processing trauma or dealing with it. But there are three states of mind that I want you all to be aware of as we have this discussion about wrestling with our feelings and our emotions for the purpose of making sure we are in a better place. And so we are talking about husbands and wives as we talk about these three mental states, right? One of the mental states is called the survival state. And when you're in survival mode, you're thinking about three things. And most of the time it's impulse or it's instinct, fight, flight, or freeze, right? The survival state looks like this in one way or another. It includes yelling. It could include aggression. It could include shutting down, defiance, defensiveness, impulsive reactions, difficulty processing logic, hyper alert or collapsed behavior, right? This is important for both spouses, particularly when a conflict happens. Because when one person is triggered and they show all these things, they actually need something very specific from their spouse. What they need is to feel safe, right? Because these impulsive reactions are the result of not feeling safe. They need a calm presence. They need to feel grounded, right? And there's a level of attunement that is necessary, because absent those things, they just get more belligerent, they get more anxious, they get more defensive, they get more impulsive, right? So when one person is triggered and they trigger the other person, now the other person is yelling with aggression and shutting down and being defiant.
And there's something about the frontal cortex or something that you're not even, when you're triggered, you don't have access to logic. And so you're behaving out of instinct.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're actually working from your brain stem. And we're getting a little bit more deep into this. We're not
doctors,
brain doctors and scientists and all this kind of stuff. But what we want you to understand, or at least recognize, is the emotion connected with these things. And we want you to understand that how you respond is either going to make things worse, even though it might feel like you're protecting yourself. It actually is going to make things worse, and it creates this downward spiral because emotions are spiraling upward, and that doesn't work, right? The next emotional state, so the first one was survival state.
Am I safe?
Am I safe? That's the first one. The next mental state is the emotional state. The question is, do you belong? Am I feeling loved? Right? It's driven by feelings, it's in relationships, whether or not there's relational security or emotional connection. What this looks like is huge emotions, a lot of crying or frustration or hurt, emotional reactivity or emotionally charged feelings, blaming or withdrawing, or seeking validation or reassurance. And again, you may be triggered to act in a specific way, or you may act off impulse and think that it's right, when in fact your spouse needs something entirely different. So in instances where there are these triggers in the emotional state, the worst thing you could do is say you overreacting, right? What's actually needed is connection or empathy, emotional presence or emotional acknowledgement, or relational safety. And we have to learn that when conflict happens or there's a trigger between spouses, most of the time it's not even about us.
It's not.
It's about something that happened decades ago, and the story resurfaced because a song played on the radio, or that black truck pulled up,
or you smell a certain food, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, it's and we have to be in control of our emotions, because if we let our emotions take control, it looks like this. Because you might be flipping out 1 minute, and then 2 hours later you're fine, and you're wondering why now your spouse is tripping, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's because when we allow our emotions to be in control, it's volatile, and so we need to understand that when we see certain things from our spouse, what we need to offer them is really important.
And if you're the one who's going through the triggers, give yourself grace and understand, okay, this is I'm not in my right thinking right now. And it's okay, but I don't want to do anything that's just going to escalate the circumstance. So that might mean stepping away. That might mean deep breathing. That might be drinking a cup of tea. That might be, some self-soothing conversation in your own mind. So there's things for both spouses to manage.
Absolutely. I mean, and the key is a controlled approach. That's the key.
Intentional.
Absolutely. An intentional, controlled approach, right? And so we were moving from worst category to best, if you could call it that. I would say least controlled to most controlled response. That's where we're going. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the executive state, right? And this is the best case scenario in all circumstances, in our interactions, in our marriages, right? The question becomes, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? And so this is where thinking, reasoning, problem solving exists in that prefrontal cortex that my wife mentioned, right? It's when somebody feels safe and emotionally connected, that prefrontal cortex is activated. Okay. Now, what does the executive mindset or the executive state look like? It's rational thinking. When all hell is breaking loose, can you still remain rational in your thinking and stay in control of your faculties, even though there's a lot of chaos going on? It's perspective taking, it's regulation, it's cooperation, empathy and compassion, right? When our spouse is at their worst, they need us to be at our best. And sometimes that might not feel logical, but in most, if not all cases, that's the best thing we can do for the health of our relationship, right? So what is needed? Opportunities to reflect, collaborative problem solving, skill building, making choices, and hopefully they are well thought out, wise choices, right? So we as spouses need to aspire to developing an executive state and not allowing our emotions to dictate a survival state. I mean, just think about it. If you're in survival mode, you don't care about anything. You don't care about anyone. All you care about is what's best for you in that situation. And there are times and places for that. Marriage is not one of them. Marriage is not one of them. And so we just wanted to share this because we know couples are struggling. Yeah. We know people that are struggling.
And this is I've never been quite this transparent about some of my own experiences, but I would say that the person that I was 5 years ago would have needed to hear this message. And so we say it with humility, we say it with compassion, we say it with some optimism that if
we say it prayerfully.
Absolutely. If there is any kind of dynamic going on if any of this kind of resonated with you, whether you're dealing with a person who has trauma or you are a person who has trauma, there is peace that's possible.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of work that goes into that, but there is absolutely peace, and it is absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. And we share that because we as coaches who deal with married couples on a number of different levels, we would love to talk to you. We would love to pray with you. But we want you to know that there is no reason for you to stay in a state that is unhealthy, right? Now, if you need assistance from a clinician, we will gladly point you in the right direction.
Sometimes that's a part of it.
Right. But if you just need coaching forward, we would love to kind of work with you where you are, because we've dealt with these issues with couples in the past, and we know from our own history, right, that you don't have to stay in the shape that you're in.
Exactly. So I hope that brings a smile to somebody, or at least piques curiosity about what could be possible. Because life is so much better when you're able to be present, and you're not just constantly reliving old, difficult situations.
Absolutely. So that's what we got. We wanted to share that with you all. We hope that there was a message of hope and some light bulbs went off, and you can take from this what you need to take from it and move forward in a positive way. And hopefully you'll reach out to us. If you like what you heard, just give us a shout. Send us an email, info@hopebyus.com. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, we're going to sign off like we normally do, and we're going to say, God bless your marriage. Talk to you again soon.